And welcome to the Survival Report Podcast. Survival Report Podcast available at, you guessed it, survivalreportpodcast.com. Also, some of these, like this one, will be specially recorded to go on our YouTube channel at survivalreport.net. Survivalreport.net. And you'll always be able to tell the difference because the ones that'll be going on YouTube or specially recorded to go on YouTube will not have the opening music. Let me explain that really fast. One of the survival and preparedness training videos that was actually a private video for a long time on YouTube. We filmed it out in the woods, and there was the sound of literally a cricket chirping. Well, YouTube flagged that and said the sound was a sample from somebody's techno or electronica type music. It's kind of interesting. And when I played it back, there was a brief, half a second, thing that sounded like something you might hear in a techno song or something. So we got that cleared up easy enough with YouTube, but figured, why tempt fate? So we've left off the REM song, "The End of the World as We Know It," which is the normal intro for the Survival Report podcast. Now, also, for folks listening on YouTube and all that good stuff, we are working on getting a audio player set up on the forums where the Survival Report podcast is hosted, so that you don't have to be a member of the forums to hear the podcast. We're going to open it up a little bit more. As I've said previously, basically when did the radio show for a couple years in the 90s, got buku in debt, $15,000 in debt, essentially giving out free information that I had worked, sweated, paid, bled for, whatever, over the course of many years, and I just couldn't afford to do that anymore. Airtime costs on WWCR, WGTG, things like that were just astronomical. Podcast, very easy, very cheap. Riding along in my car doing some work right now, recording this one. So easy enough with the newer technology in that. Problem is hosting it, having the files there, all that good stuff. If you want to listen to any of the old ones, it looks like at this point you're going to have to log on to the forums at survivalandpreparedness.com and then go to the Survival Report podcast forum there, and boom, you can have free access to any of the old files and everything. However, they are set up as zip files and all that good stuff. As soon as you click on them, they should, depending on the applications on your computer, they should open up in like a Windows Media Player or something like that, and you should be able to hear everything. That being said, from one computer to the next or one application to the next, I can't guarantee that. As I always say, I'm a survivalist first and foremost, and definitely not a techie. So apologize in advance for that. Like I said, we will be putting more of them here on YouTube as well. Lots of big shows coming up, lots of good events coming up, especially here in the southeast region for preppers and survivalists and everything. Coming up March the 2nd, the Southern Readiness Conference in Gastonia, North Carolina, not far outside of Charlotte. So we expect to see a lot of regular folks that attend the Charlotte PrepCon and things like that, and all the different events that we've worked in that area. We're looking forward to seeing some of y'all there as well. You can find information at southernreadiness.com, southernreadiness.com, or if that doesn't work for whatever reason, go to the forums, survivalandpreparedness.com, and you'll see the ad there on the right-hand side for the Southern Readiness Conference coming up March 2nd in Gastonia, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. And I will be there speaking, and JRH Enterprises will be exhibiting, lots of other good speakers and vendors in that as well, too. David Kobler from, Southern Prepper 1, he'll be there speaking. Scott Hunt from Practical Preppers, Mr. Mad Mike, I believe from YouTube, hope I didn't butcher his name, Survivor Jane just going off the top of my head here, guys, but if you go to the conference website, you'll be able to find out who's all going to be there, what they're going to be speaking on, buy tickets in advance, etc., etc., etc. It is at a church. It's being held at a church. They have a thing on the website, no guns are allowed in the church or whatever. Talking to the fellow that's putting it on, essentially what he said was, his pastor has allowed them to have it at their church. However, the pastor isn't, shall I say, fully convinced on prepping. So, all of us plan on changing that, when we're there that weekend or whatever. But for now, just understand that, it's not some big anti-gun agenda or anything stupid like that. It's just, if you're not familiar with people in this crowd, maybe you've watched too much TV or whatever, you might have a completely different, different thoughts on how things really are. So I'm guessing that's where that dude is coming from, okay? And again, this isn't the guy putting on the event. This is the guy that has allowed the event to be held at his church. So, what I always say about concealed weapons and things like that is just keep your mouth shut. There's no need to play show and tell with any sort of thing like that. If you want to carry a gun, guys, just carry a gun and keep your mouth shut. You ain't going to be the only one there doing that. It ain't going to be the end of the world. But you should, when you go to another man's house, you should respect what their wishes are in that. So, don't flash it, don't talk about it, all that stuff. And I've seen some people on, like an example on Scott's, one of this video Scott did about it, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to come because of that. Oh, I'm not going to." That's stupid. That's stupid. I got to be honest. That's stupid. These same people would probably shop at Cabela's or Gander Mountain or wherever that place is, at one of the big box stores that has the no concealed weapon sign out front. But they're gonna piss and moan essentially about no guns in a church from the guy's allowed that to be there in his church, guys. Just roll with it. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, keep your mouth shut, keep it concealed, and it's not the end of the world. Don't act cagey, and better to have some practice learning how to blend in than to run your mouth and make a big fuss over what really doesn't amount to all that much. Okay, we need to learn to do that sort of thing in the society that unfortunately America is becoming. We need to be less and less of the hey, I'm not gonna do that, and more of the blend in. Do it any damn way, but just blend in and not run your mouth about it. That sort of thing. That's just my opinion on it. Take it as it is. Fire away at that. I don't really care. I'll be there 9 times out of 10. I'll probably be armed as well or within close reach. And you know what? If you're anywhere near me, I can get yours. So I'm not overly worried about it. Anywho, Southern Readiness Conference, March 2nd, Gastonia, North Carolina. Look forward to seeing you there. And coming up the very next weekend after that, lots going on in March. Coming up the very next weekend, March the 9th and 10th, in Gainesville, Georgia, there is the Disaster Preparedness Expo. Again, March the 9th and 10th in Gainesville, Georgia, just a short drive outside of Atlanta, the Atlanta area, all that good stuff, from not that far really from lower Tennessee, from parts of South Carolina and that as well too, guys. Gainesville, Georgia, on March 9th and 10th, the Disaster Preparedness Expo. And you can get the link to go to that website again off the forums at survivalandpreparedness.com. Look at the left-hand side, scroll down, and you'll see a American flag-looking banner, and that's got all the info for the show. Click on that, and you can go to their site and purchase tickets, see who's all speaking, all that good stuff as well, too. I'll be speaking there also, and JRH will be exhibiting there. I know Scott Hunt from Practical Preppers will be there speaking. Let's see, I'm really not familiar with some of the other speakers, but they have a full lineup of speakers and that as well too. And definitely want to come and check that out. I'll be speaking twice on Saturday. I believe on lessons learned from 27 years of preparing, and also a food storage talk that he asked me to give. And if you're familiar with any of the stuff I do at shows and that, it's kind of out of the box thinking. It's not your standard, give me a list, type of nonsense, list of lists and all that, sort of thing. This is empowering you to think for yourself and giving you the tools and the concepts and everything to do that. Anybody can regurgitate crap and just tell you the same thing everybody else on the net could tell you. That's really not teaching you anything. So you'll if you've never been to one of my talks, you'll really get a lot out of it. We have a really high turnover rate as far as if I speak twice in a day, 9 times out of 10, there's 70-80% of the people back for the second talk, depending on on what's conflicting with that and everything else. So. That's not tooting my own horn. That just tells me that and the feedback that promoters are getting and we're getting at the booths and all that good stuff is that folks need to get this information, and that's what's important there. It's not a sales presentation. It's not a marketing scheme or anything like that. It's just to help you to get started in some of your preps and everything. As a lot of people have said, it can easily take a couple years off your learning curve, and that's what's important. Is if you can listen to somebody who has made the mistakes and is not prideful to where they're afraid to tell you about their mistakes. Basically, the lessons learned. Talk there is essentially me discussing problems and pitfalls that I've encountered, mistakes I've made. You don't hear that a lot nowadays because everybody wants to thump their chest and play Mr. Pride and Ego and all that good stuff. A lot of the bigger name people in the preparedness movement right now, they a lot of stuff goes to people's heads really easy, and I'm not knocking them for that, but it's important to also be willing to fail and be willing to share your failures with other people so that you can learn from that. And that's essentially, what a lot of my talk is about, is a lot of things that have done a lot of things over almost 3 decades now in survival and preparedness and everything. And, I'm going to tell you how to cut several years off of your learning curve there. March 9th and 10th, Gainesville, Georgia, the Disaster Preparedness Expo. And again, find the info on the forums at survivalandpreparedness.com. Look to the right-hand side, the American flag banner. Click on that, and bada bing, bada boom, you will be at their site. I believe it's usdpe.org. But again, go to the link on the site. I don't have their site memorized. I apologize. And last but not least, April 7th in Orlando, Florida. Survival medicine from the ground up. Survival medicine from the ground up. Guys, I got to tell you, I'm really, really excited about this class. Did a private class here not too long ago. A lot of folks approached us from, speaking down at the Life Changes Be Ready conference in Florida in January and said, hey, listen, we got a small group, would like you to come out, Bible medicine class, just for us, that sort of thing. And we do that. A lot of our training is just private consultation, private training like that. So we did one of those, matter of fact, just a few weekends back, kind of similar area, oddly enough, in Central Florida. Anywho, great class, guys. This is, if you don't have the background of, say, a paramedic or something like that, or if you don't deal with medical stuff on a daily basis, this class is really going to get you started right, guys. Again, survival medicine from the ground up. April 7th. 2013 in Orlando, Florida. So centrally located for folks in Florida and that. Going with a one-day format for this one here. A lot of folks have asked for just a one-day in and out type format. There will be a series, just like we did in the 90s. We started the survival medicine concept back in 1992, 1993. We were the first ones to offer classes like that outside of base operations school in the 80s, and they went out of business in the 1990 or so. But we were the first ones to offer this sort of training to the public outside of, like I said, base operations school. And so it's a great class. It's not going to overload you with too much unnecessary info. It is designed from the first and foremost from the standpoint of the first responder. So we're going to work with a lot of really basic concepts early on. Now, when I say basic, understand that doesn't mean simple. That doesn't mean I don't need to know this because I took a Red Cross and CPR BS class. No, this is a lot more advanced than that. However, going to numerous various other places, medical classes here lately, I can tell you that a lot of things are skipped over. It's just like when you go to maybe a long-range shooting class, and it's supposed to be a fundamentals type class, and they don't teach you trigger control correctly, or you don't really go over breathing right and things like that. They just kind of throw you out there in the range, and okay, got your rifle zero, let's go shoot, bubba. That doesn't do you a lot of good. Quite the contrary, it reinforces a lot of bad habits. So in the same token with this is why we've titled this From the Ground Up, is because bada bing, bada boom, you're going to leave with all the basics you need to start moving forward in your medical training in that. So again, you can find information on that at survivalmedicine.com, survivalmedicine.com, and again, that's April 7th, Orlando, Florida, Survival Medicine From the Ground Up, and there is a discount to register before March 1st. You can save like $25, so you definitely want to jump on that, and the class is filling up pretty quick. All right, guys. Now let's get to the heart of the matter here. Wanted to talk a little bit about retreat setup, things like that. We've covered some of these sorts of things before, but I wanted to kind of add a new concept into it. One thing I've always told folks, everybody, a lot of folks are looking for land right now, trying to get out of the cities and all that good stuff, and that's good. That's what you should be doing. First and foremost, everybody wants to envision this, 80 or 100 acre, parcel of land. Well, number one, I would ask why. Are you going to get into ranching? Are you going to try to get into the timber business? Why so much land? I want to put my house right in the center of it, and then nobody can mess with me, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but you have to understand, more land equals more maintenance. More maintenance equals more time spent there. And by all means, I think if your eventual goal should be to live full-time, year-round at your retreat. We've done that now for about 14 years, and there is absolutely no substitute for boots on the ground experience like that. There's absolutely no substitute for it. I thought I was ready by, gardening in my backyard in suburbia and raising chickens and rabbits and ducks and everything down there, for 5 or 6 years or 7 or 8 years, I guess, before I moved. I figured, I was ready. I was nowhere near ready. We moved in late 99. And essentially it was 2005, 2006 maybe, before we really got to a place where we were producing a fair amount of our own food, things like that. And I place a lot of emphasis on food because I think long term, a lot of these problems are going to manifest themselves one way or other into problems with the food distribution chain and famine and things like that. So I have always placed an emphasis on that, and I always will place an emphasis on that. And, as I tell people all the time, guns are great. I love guns. I love to shoot. I love to train. I train all the time. Probably went through 10,000 rounds in training last year. Not pissing them away, but training, actual training. Offer training, go to other people's classes, learn every bit I can from everywhere which way I can. That being said, if you plan reasonably well, you won't be fighting every day, okay? But what do we pretty much have to do every day? Eat. So you need to put a fair amount of emphasis, I feel, on food. And that's more than just, plopping down your Visa and buying a bunch of, cans of Alpine Air or Mountain House or something like that. Although that's very important as well, you also need to be able to produce a fair amount of food. All right, so you got your land, or you're getting your land. The first thing I always tell folks is, where possible, you need to get in your orchard and you need to get in a pond. And people have always said, well, I want to get there, I want to build a house, and then I'll do all this stuff later. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy and everything. Keep in mind, your house, for the most part, is a function of time and money, and good thinking and everything. But, an orchard, putting in, like especially semi-dwarf fruit trees, things like that, they're not all that expensive, guys. If you shop around, if you buy quality stuff from a good local nursery, and I don't mean Lowe's or Walmart, who have 50 million varieties that may or may not even grow or produce in your area. From a good local mom and pop's nursery, a guy that knows the area, that's grown stuff there for a couple decades or something like that, that can tell you, yeah, there's 4 types of apples that are produced here in South Idaho, Florida, Alabama, wherever you're at. You know what? That shaves off a learning curve. It shaved off my learning curve because I didn't understand why my red delicious apples weren't, apple trees weren't producing anything. Well, there isn't enough chill hours here for that. And learned that the hard way. Again, not afraid to tell you my mistakes. I was an idiot. I should have researched that better. Should have talked to people in the know, not just looked things up on the net. Okay, difference. Anyway, but those things take time to get in the ground. They take time to really start producing. If you buy quality trees that aren't just, bare root sticks and everything like that, it may only be a couple years to where you're seeing some fruit. But nevertheless, it's not going to be a microwave type situation. You pop in the microwave, you hit 30 seconds, and bada bing, you're stuff in your face a minute later. Okay, it's not going to be like that, and that's the big thing that a lot of folks have problems with when they make the transition from living a consumptive, city, urban lifestyle to more of a slower, semi-productive, or somewhat productive, I should say, country lifestyle. Is things slow down in, both in a, Andy Griffith type of way, but things also slow down in the context of you have to be more patient. We've talked about delayed gratification in here and how it can, basically set you up for massive rewards in the future versus, always being at the whim of your emotions and your what you think are your current needs and substituting them for your future, and how that's really a piss poor plan for survival in that. So, fruit trees in the ground is an easy, relatively cheap thing to do. You're going to need more than 1 or 2 of them, okay? That was where I was going to tie in here today, is we've been doing a lot in the original orchards this year, basically just going in. There's been a lot of trees that essentially they're just breathing up all the other trees' air. They're wasting a lot of nutrients. They're just not producing much. For this being the quote unquote peach state, I don't see how these guys grow them worth a darn without slathering them down with DDT or whatever, because I've gotten a handful of decent peaches over years and years and years, and that was after spraying them the heck, and I really don't like doing that, So needless to say, we trimmed a lot of the peach trees. We trimmed a lot of the pears that ended up being flowering pears, because you know what? Sometimes when you buy stuff like that, it ends up being the flowering variety, and even though it's marked, such and such pear, Orient pear, or Bartlett or whatnot, all of a sudden, a couple of years into it, you're going, man, that's really pretty, and it's got these little spiky things on there, but I haven't seen any fruit yet come of it. Well, that happens. Sometimes things get mismatched like that in the nursery, or whatever the hell happens. I don't know. But you only need a couple of those. Do they help with pollination? Sure, they help with pollination. Keep a couple of them around here and there in a larger orchard with a lot of pears. But other than that, you're not getting anything out of them except a pretty tree for a couple weeks during the year. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. Why would I waste time and money and effort in the survival context to keep something like that around? There's no reason to. I realize a lot of people like the ornamentals and stuff like that, and there's no reason for you not to have that. I'm not saying that, but from a feed your family first context, they don't do me any good. So we've been rooting a lot of stuff like that out. We've been really doing some pretty heavy pruning, things like that, and I'll probably throw up a video with some of that on there and everything. But what really occurred to me is, I got chided a lot by friends and other people early on, where it was like, you don't need 50 trees in this orchard. That's crazy. You're gonna have a truckload of fruit from one tree. I have yet to see one tree that's produced a, quote, truckload of fruit. Maybe a couple wheelbarrows full of fruit, but nothing mega significant like a truckload. Anyway, my point being, of course, these are semi-dwarf trees. My point being is, without that quantity of trees, without, there's 50 in one orchard, about 50 in another orchard, and another little smaller orchard outside of that, is without being able to have that quantity of them, I was not able to, I would have, especially early on, I was really scared to do any heavy pruning. Why? Because you're finally getting a good crop, and you know that when you prune a little bit, it's probably going to be diminished that year. And so, to the guys that go, 4 trees are enough, 6 trees are enough, or whatever, you're not going to have that much leeway to be able to really go in and heavily prune one year, or if a tree just stops producing or dies, or like you'll see with the new video, a lot of rabbits and small animals, they'll eat the bottoms of those things in the winter. They'll strip the bark, and it can destroy a young tree. All right, so there's a certain quality about quantity. It's an old Russian military axiom or whatever, and but ask somebody. Is basically, there's a certain quality about quantity. Well, I have lived my prepping life in that regard. That doesn't mean you always buy cheap stuff, okay? That's not the point of that. But the point of it is better to have a few extra that you might think at the time are quote-unquote extra than too few. All right, fruit trees are a prime example of that. $10, $15 at a high note for a semi-dwarf tree. You're paying more from that. You're getting screwed. Shop around. Put in 20 of them, guys, if you think you need 4. If you got a family of 4, 20 is not that much, and this will give you space over time to where if you really need that food, but you really need to start pruning, you can prune a couple trees selectively this year, a couple trees selectively next year, and not have the major hit of the fruit loss and everything, of the lessened production in that regard. So again, there's a certain quality about quantity. Goes with anything else we do. It's like the, buy it cheap and stack it deep, concept in that. Without a doubt, guys, it's going to really tie in for you. The other thing is, again, like we started talking about, is ponds. Ponds also take a couple years to really get set up ahead of time. When you dig a new pond, it takes a while for, all the residual stuff to settle out, a good, for lack of a better term, environment, for fish and tadpoles and all that good stuff to get built back up, the nutrient levels, the pH, all that sort of thing. So do all your research and all that good stuff, but these should be the first things you do when you get land, is put in an orchard and put in a pond, because they take a while to get them developed. Now, make sure you can water your trees. That's would be a given, especially in most areas of the country right now, especially in a lot of areas in the country right now are under drought type situations. So maybe the orchard is right next to the new pond. Maybe you do them more around the same time, and if nothing else, you throw a small pump in there and you run it with your generator to pump water up to your trees. Worst case scenario, 5-gallon bucket around each tree. Once a week will keep them going pretty good as well too, until you can get something a little bit more substantial with drip and everything involved. And just a reminder, we do have a boatload of videos on fruit trees, on gardening, all that good stuff on the channel at survivalreport.net. Just look in some of the older videos. Some of them go back 5-6 years, something like that. We're up to our 30 minutes, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll have more for you soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube.